The campfire crackled in the desert darkness, casting dancing shadows across Zara Bennett's weary face as she heard the crunch of boots on sand and rocks. Far too many boots for comfort. And she knew before she even looked up that trouble had found her in this desolate stretch between Colfax, California, and the next settlement. She had been traveling for 3 days since leaving the mining town, her supplies running low and her horse tied to a scraggly Joshua tree a few yards away, when the 5 men emerged from the darkness like specters materializing from her worst fears. Their faces were rough, unshaven, and their eyes held the kind of hunger that made her blood run cold despite the warmth of the fire. "Well, well," the tallest one said, his voice rough as gravel. "What do we have here? A little lady all alone in the wilderness." Zara stood slowly, her hand moving toward the rifle she kept close, but another man stepped forward and kicked it away before she could reach it. Her heart hammered in her chest as they formed a loose circle around her small campfire, blocking any escape route she might have taken. "I don't want any trouble," she said, keeping her voice steady despite the fear coursing through her veins. "I'm just passing through our territory," another man said with a nasty grin. "Everything out here belongs to us, including whatever you got in those saddlebags." She had left Sacramento 2 weeks ago after her father died, leaving her with nothing but debts and the clothes on her back. The small amount of money she had managed to scrape together was hidden in her boot, and she would die before letting these men take it from her. It was all she had left in the world, her only chance at starting fresh somewhere new. The men were closing in, their intentions clear, when she heard the sound of a single horse approaching at a leisurely pace. The hoofbeats were steady, unhurried, as though the rider had all the time in the world. The men heard it too, and they turned toward the sound, hands moving to their weapons. A figure emerged from the darkness, sitting tall in the saddle on a magnificent black stallion. The firelight caught the silver conchos on his saddle and the gleam of his spurs as he rode into the circle of light. He was tall, broad-shouldered, with dark hair that fell just past his collar beneath a well-worn hat. His face was handsome in a rugged way, with a strong jaw and eyes that assessed the situation in an instant. "I think you all should move along now," he said, his voice calm but carrying an edge of steel that made the hair on the back of Zara's neck stand up. The tall man who had spoken first laughed, but it was a nervous sound. "This ain't your concern, stranger. Best you ride on." The cowboy dismounted with fluid grace, his hand resting casually on the revolver at his hip. "I'm making it my concern," he said. "The lady looks like she wants to be left alone, and I'm inclined to help her with that." "There's 5 of us and 1 of you," another man pointed out, but his voice wavered with uncertainty. The cowboy's lips curved into something that was not quite a smile. "I've faced worse odds. Question is, which one of you wants to be first?" The tension in the air was thick enough to cut with a knife. Zara held her breath, watching as the men exchanged glances, weighing their options. The cowboy stood perfectly still, a coiled spring ready to explode into action at the slightest provocation. Finally, the tall man spat into the dirt. "This ain't worth it," he muttered. "Let's go." The men backed away slowly, keeping their eyes on the cowboy as they retreated into the darkness. Zara could hear them mounting their horses, and then the sound of hoofbeats fading into the night. Only when the silence settled completely did she allow herself to breathe again. The cowboy turned to look at her, and she found herself staring into eyes that were a startling shade of blue-green, like the ocean she had seen once as a child. "You all right, madam?" he asked. "Yes," she managed, her voice coming out shakier than she intended. "Thank you. I don't know what would have happened if you hadn't come along." "I do," he said grimly, then seemed to catch himself. "Name's Marcus Irving." I was heading back to my ranch when I saw their campfire up on the ridge and figured they might be causing trouble. Zara Bennett, she replied, offering her hand. His grip was firm but gentle, calloused from years of hard work. I'm grateful, Mr. Irving, more grateful than I can say. Call me Marcus, he said, retrieving her rifle and handing it back to her. You traveling alone, that's dangerous country for anyone, especially for a woman on her own. I don't have much choice, she admitted, settling back down by the fire. I'm trying to get to Arizona, where I have a cousin who might be willing to take me in. Marcus frowned, glancing at her meager supplies. That's a long journey. You got enough provisions? She wanted to lie, to maintain some semblance of pride, but something about his direct gaze made her tell the truth. Not really, but I'll manage. He was quiet for a moment, then made a decision that would change both their lives. My ranch is about 5 miles north of here. Why don't you come stay the night in a proper bed, get a hot meal, and we can figure out how to get you safely to Arizona in the morning? Every instinct told her to be wary, but she had just seen him face down 5 men on her behalf without asking for anything in return. I don't want to impose, she said carefully. No imposition, he replied. I got a housekeeper, Mrs. Chen, who lives in the main house with her husband. They manage things while I'm out working the cattle. You'd have your own room, and I promise you'd be safe. The thought of a real bed and hot food was almost overwhelming. All right, she agreed. Thank you, Marcus. They packed up her camp quickly, and she mounted her tired mare while Marcus swung back up onto his stallion. As they rode through the moonlit desert, she studied him from the corner of her eye. He sat his horse like he had been born in the saddle, moving with the animal's rhythm as naturally as breathing. How long have you had your ranch? She asked, breaking the comfortable silence. 5 years, he said. Built it from nothing after I saved up enough money working cattle drives. It's not much, but it's mine. There was pride in his voice, and she understood it. Ownership, independence, those were precious things in 1883, especially out here in California where the land was still wild and opportunity waited for those brave enough to seize it. What about you? He asked. What's in Arizona? My cousin married a shopkeeper in Tucson, she explained. We haven't spoken in years, but she's the only family I have left now that my father is gone. I'm sorry for your loss, he said, and the sincerity in his voice touched something deep inside her. Thank you. He was sick for a long time, so it wasn't unexpected, but it still hurts. They rode in silence after that, and Zara found herself relaxing despite the strangeness of the situation. There was something solid and trustworthy about Marcus Irving, something that made her feel safe for the first time in weeks. The ranch appeared as they crested a small rise, a collection of buildings silhouetted against the star-filled sky. The main house was modest but well-maintained, with a barn and several outbuildings nearby. Corrals held sleeping cattle, and she could hear the gentle sounds of the animals settling for the night. A lantern flickered to life in the main house as they approached, and a small Chinese woman appeared in the doorway, her face creased with concern. Mr. Marcus, you are very late, she said in accented English. I was worried. Sorry, Mrs. Chen, I ran into some trouble on the way back. He dismounted and helped Zara down from her horse. This is Miss Bennett. She needs a place to stay for the night, Mrs. Chen's expression softened immediately. Of course. Come in, miss. You look exhausted. I will heat water for washing and prepare food. Thank you, Zara said gratefully. You're very kind. Marcus handed the horses off to Mr. Chen, who had appeared from the barn, and escorted Zara into the house. The interior was simple but comfortable, with sturdy furniture and woven rugs on the wooden floors. It smelled like wood smoke and something delicious cooking, and Zara's stomach rumbled in response. Mrs. Chen showed her to a small bedroom with a real bed covered in quilts, and Zara had to blink back sudden tears at the simple luxury of it. "I will bring water, Mrs. Chen promised, patting her arm gently before disappearing. Zara sank onto the bed, her legs suddenly weak as the adrenaline of the evening finally wore off. She could hear Marcus moving around in another part of the house, his deep voice mixing with Mr. Chen's quieter tones as they tended to the horses. True to her word, Mrs. Chen returned with a basin of warm water and clean towels. "You wash, then come eat," she instructed. "You are too thin. Need good food." After Mrs. Chen left, Zara stripped off her dusty clothes and washed away days of trail dirt. She didn't have anything clean to change into, so she shook out her dress as best she could and put it back on, wishing she looked more presentable. When she emerged from the bedroom, she found Marcus sitting at the kitchen table, also freshly washed, his dark hair still damp. He had changed into a clean shirt, and without the trail dust coating him, she realized he was younger than she had first thought, probably only a few years older than her own 22 years. "Feel better?" he asked, standing politely as she entered. "Much," she admitted, taking the seat Mrs. Chen indicated. "Thank you again for everything." "Stop thanking me," he said with a slight smile. "Anyone would have done the same." "That's not true, and you know it," she replied. "Plenty of people would have ridden right past." He didn't argue, just watched as Mrs. Chen served them bowls of hearty stew with fresh bread. The food was delicious, and Zara ate with an appetite she hadn't felt in weeks, too hungry to be self-conscious about her manners. "So," Marcus said when they had both taken the edge off their hunger, "tell me about yourself." "Where are you from originally?" "Sacramento," she said. "My mother died when I was young, and it was just my father and me. He was a clerk, nothing exciting, but we got by. Then he got sick last year, and the medical bills ate up everything we had. After he died, I had nothing left, not even the house. The bank took it for the debts." "That's rough," Marcus said, his expression sympathetic. "What about the cousin in Arizona? You sure she'll take you in?" Zara hesitated. "Honestly, I'm not sure. We weren't close. But I don't have anywhere else to go." The admission hung in the air between them, stark and vulnerable. Marcus was quiet for a moment, then said, "What if you didn't go to Arizona?" She looked up at him, confused. "What do you mean?" "I mean, what if you stayed here? I could use help around the ranch. Mrs. Chen does what she can, but she's getting older and there's more work than two people can handle. I've been thinking about hiring someone." Zara stared at him, unsure if she had heard correctly. "You're offering me a job?" "Room, board, and a fair wage," he confirmed. "Nothing improper, I promise. You'd have your own space and Mrs. Chen would be your chaperone. But if you'd rather go to Arizona, I understand. I just thought I'd offer an alternative." Her mind raced. The thought of staying here, of having a place and purpose, instead of throwing herself on the uncertain mercy of a distant cousin, was incredibly tempting. But she barely knew this man. As if reading her thoughts, Marcus said, "Sleep on it. You don't have to decide tonight. In the morning, if you want to continue to Arizona, I'll provision you properly and draw you a map to the safest route. But the offer stands if you want it." "Why?" she asked bluntly. "Why would you do this for a complete stranger?" He was quiet for a long moment, his fingers tracing patterns on the wooden table. "My mother was alone once," he finally said. "After my father died, she struggled to keep us fed and housed. People turned their backs on her, called her a burden. She died when I was 16, worn out from trying to survive. I swore then that if I ever had the means, I'd help someone the way she needed help." The raw honesty in his voice made Zara's throat tighten. "I'm sorry," she said softly. "That must have been incredibly hard." It was a long time ago, he said, but she could see the old pain still lingering in his eyes. Anyway, that's why. You don't have to feel obligated. The offer is genuine, no strings attached. I'll think about it, she promised, and she meant it. After dinner, Zara retreated to her room, exhausted but with her mind spinning. She lay in the comfortable bed, staring at the ceiling and trying to imagine what her life might look like here. Working on a ranch was hard labor, she knew that, but it would be honest work with people who seemed kind. And there was something about Marcus Irving that drew her, something she didn't want to examine too closely yet. She fell asleep with the question still unanswered, but when she woke to the sound of roosters crowing and smelled fresh coffee brewing, something had shifted inside her. The morning light streaming through the window seemed like a sign, a new beginning waiting to be seized. Marcus was already up, dressed for work in denim and leather, when she emerged from her room. He looked up from his coffee with a questioning expression. "Sleep well." "Better than I have in months," she admitted. "Marcus, about your offer last night, if it's still open, I'd like to accept." His face broke into a genuine smile that transformed his features, making him look younger and more carefree. "It's still open, and I'm glad you're staying." "When do you want to start? How about now?" she said, and he laughed. "Let's at least get some breakfast in you first, then Mrs. Chen can show you around and explain what needs doing." The next few weeks passed in a blur of activity. Zara threw herself into the work with determination, learning the rhythms of ranch life. She helped Mrs. Chen with cooking and cleaning, tended the kitchen garden, fed the chickens, and gradually took on more responsibilities. Her hands grew calloused and her arms stronger. The sun darkened her skin despite the bonnet Mrs. Chen insisted she wear, and she discovered muscles she never knew she had. Marcus was often out working with the cattle, sometimes gone from sunrise to sunset, but when he was around, Zara found herself increasingly aware of his presence. The way he moved, with casual strength and confidence. The sound of his laugh when Mr. Chen told a joke at dinner. The kindness in his eyes when he looked at her across the table. She told herself it was just gratitude, that she was confusing appreciation for attraction, but her heart knew differently. She was falling for Marcus Irving, and it terrified her. One evening about a month after her arrival, Marcus found her sitting on the porch watching the sunset paint the sky in shades of orange and pink. He settled into the chair beside her with a contented sigh. "Long day?" she asked. "Found a break in the fence on the north pasture," he said. "Took most of the afternoon to fix it and round up the strays, but it's done now." They sat in comfortable silence for a while, watching the light fade from the sky. Finally, Marcus said, "You've been here a month now. How are you settling in?" "Better than I ever expected," she admitted. "I love it here. The work is hard, but it's satisfying, and you've all been so welcoming." "You've been good for the ranch," he said. "Mrs. Chen says you're a natural. She's teaching you to make her special dumplings, which is high praise. She never taught anyone before." Zara smiled, pleased. "She's a good teacher, patient." Marcus turned to look at her, and in the fading light his eyes were serious. "Zara, I need to tell you something," her heart stuttered. "What is it? When I offered you this job, I meant what I said about no strings attached. I wanted to help you because it was the right thing to do. But these past weeks, getting to know you, watching you become part of this place, I've started feeling things I didn't expect to feel." She held her breath, afraid to move, afraid to break whatever was happening between them. "I care about you," he continued, his voice rough with emotion. "More than an employer should care about an employee. More than I've cared about anyone in a long time. And if you don't feel the same way, I'll respect that. Nothing has to change, but I needed you to know." Zara's heart was racing so fast she thought it might burst from her chest. "Marcus," she said softly, I feel the same way. I was afraid to say anything because you've done so much for me already, and I didn't want you to think I was trying to take advantage." His hand reached out to cover hers where it rested on the chair arm. His touch was warm, solid, real. "You could never take advantage," he said. "You're one of the most genuine people I've ever met." She turned her hand over, lacing her fingers through his, and the simple intimacy of it sent warmth flooding through her. "What do we do now?" she asked. "I'd like to court you properly," he said. "If you'll let me. I know the circumstances are unusual, but I want to do this right." "I'd like that," she whispered. And when he smiled at her, she felt like she was glowing from the inside out. The courting was sweet and tentative at first, stolen moments between work and responsibility. Marcus would find excuses to be near her, helping her carry water from the well or joining her in the garden while she weeded. They took walks in the evening after dinner, talking about everything and nothing, learning each other's stories and dreams. He told her about growing up poor in Texas, about the years he spent working cattle drives to save money for his own place, about the loneliness of building something from scratch with no one to share it with. She told him about her childhood in Sacramento, about the books she loved to read and the places she dreamed of seeing someday. "I always wanted to see the ocean," she confessed one night as they walked along the fence line. "A real ocean, not just pictures in books." "It's about 100 miles west of here," he said. "We could go sometime if you wanted. Make a trip of it." The casual way he included himself in her future made her chest tight with happiness. "I'd like that." Their first kiss happened on a warm evening in late summer. They were sitting on the porch, and Marcus had been telling her a funny story about a runaway calf when he suddenly stopped mid-sentence and just looked at her. "Can I kiss you?" he asked, his voice barely above a whisper. "Yes," she breathed, and then his lips were on hers, gentle and questioning. She kissed him back with all the pent-up emotion of the past months, and when they finally broke apart, they were both breathing hard. "I love you," he said, the words tumbling out like he couldn't hold them back any longer. "I know it's fast, but I love you, Zara." "I love you too," she replied, and saying the words out loud felt like freedom. By autumn, their relationship had deepened into something unshakable. Marcus asked her to marry him on a crisp October morning, presenting her with a simple gold band that had belonged to his mother. "It's not much," he said nervously, "but it's all I have from her, and I want you to have it." Zara looked at the ring through tears of joy. "It's perfect," she said. "Yes, Marcus, yes, I'll marry you." They were married a month later in the small church in Colfax with Mrs. and Mr. Chen as witnesses, and a handful of neighboring ranchers in attendance. Zara wore a simple cream-colored dress that Mrs. Chen had helped her sew, and Marcus wore his best suit, looking handsome and slightly uncomfortable in the formal clothes. When the minister pronounced them husband and wife, Marcus kissed her with such tenderness that several of the ladies in attendance sighed audibly. Zara felt like her heart might burst with happiness as they walked back down the aisle hand in hand, ready to start their life together. The wedding night was both awkward and beautiful, two people learning each other in the most intimate way possible. Marcus was gentle and patient, and Zara felt herself falling even deeper in love with him as they moved together in the darkness of their bedroom. "Are you happy?" he asked afterward, holding her close against his chest. "Happier than I ever thought possible," she replied honestly. "When I was sitting by that campfire all those months ago, I never imagined my life could become this." "I never imagined I'd find you," he said, pressing a kiss to her forehead. "You're the best thing that ever happened to me, Zara Irving." She smiled at her new name, testing it out in her mind. Zara Irving. It sounded right, like it had always been her name, just waiting for her to grow into it. The first year of their marriage was filled with hard work and joy in equal measure. They expanded the ranch, adding more cattle and building a new barn. Zara proved to have a head for business, helping Marcus keep the books and negotiate better prices with the buyers in town. Together, they made the ranch profitable in ways Marcus never had alone, but it wasn't all about work. There were Sunday afternoons spent reading together in the shade, Marcus's head in her lap while she ran her fingers through his hair. There were impromptu dances in the kitchen when Mrs. Chen played her fiddle. There were long nights of love-making and whispered conversations about their dreams for the future. When Zara discovered she was pregnant the following spring, they were both overjoyed and terrified. What if I'm not a good father? Marcus worried, pacing the bedroom while Zara watched him with amusement. You'll be wonderful, she assured him. You're kind and patient and hardworking. Our child will be lucky to have you. Our child, he repeated, wonder in his voice. He knelt beside the bed and placed his hand gently on her still flat stomach. There's really a baby in there. There really is, she confirmed, placing her hand over his. The pregnancy progressed smoothly, though Zara found herself exhausted by the summer heat. Marcus was endlessly solicitous, insisting she rest more and take on fewer chores. Mrs. Chen took over most of the heavy work, shooing Zara away whenever she tried to help too much. You growing a baby, Mrs. Chen said firmly. That is hard work enough. Their son was born on a cold November night, arriving after 12 hours of labor that left Zara exhausted but elated. Marcus held the tiny, red-faced infant with a look of such awe that Zara fell in love with him all over again. He's perfect, Marcus whispered, tears streaming down his face. Zara, he's absolutely perfect. They named him Michael, after Marcus's father, and the baby brought a new dimension to their lives. Marcus proved to be a devoted father, walking the floor with Michael when he cried at night and changing diapers without complaint. Zara watched her husband cradle their son, and felt her heart swell with so much love she thought she might burst from it. The years passed in a blur of growing children and growing prosperity. 2 years after Michael came Lily, a dark-haired little girl with her father's eyes and her mother's stubborn chin. Then Thomas, quiet and thoughtful, who preferred books to outdoor play. The ranch house rang with children's laughter and the chaos of family life. Marcus and Zara grew together through the challenges and triumphs of raising a family. There were lean years when the cattle prices dropped, and they had to tighten their belts. There were good years when they could afford new furniture and new clothes for the growing children. Through it all, they remained each other's anchor and safe harbor. On their 10th anniversary, Marcus took Zara on the trip to the ocean he had promised all those years ago. They left the children in Mrs. Chen's capable hands and rowed west together, just the two of them like in the early days of their courtship. When Zara saw the vast expanse of the Pacific Ocean for the first time, she gasped at its beauty. The water stretched endlessly to the horizon, deep blue and constantly moving, nothing like the pictures in her old books. It's incredible, she breathed, standing on the sandy beach with the wind whipping her hair around her face. Marcus came up behind her, wrapping his arms around her waist and resting his chin on her shoulder. Worth the wait, worth everything, she said, turning in his arms to kiss him. They spent 3 days at the coast, walking along the beach and talking like they used to before children and responsibility filled their days. They made love to the sound of waves crashing on the shore and dreamed about their future. You ever regret it? Marcus asked one night as they lay tangled together in the small hotel bed. Staying with me instead of going to Arizona? Never, Zara said firmly. Not for one single second. You gave me everything I never knew I needed, Marcus. A home, a family, a purpose. And most importantly, you gave me your love. You saved me too, he said quietly. I was so lonely before you came. I had the ranch, but it was just a place. You made it a home. You made me whole. She kissed him deeply, pouring 10 years of love and gratitude into it. When they finally broke apart, both breathless, she said, "We built a good life together, didn't we?" "The best life," he agreed. "And we're not done yet." They returned home to find the children had grown impossibly taller in their absence, and the ranch had survived without them just fine. But it felt good to be home, surrounded by the life they had built together from nothing. More years passed, marked by the children growing up and the ranch continuing to prosper. Michael, now 19 and nearly as tall as his father, took on more responsibility with the cattle. Lily, at 17, had her mother's head for business and kept meticulous records of every transaction. Thomas, at 15, surprised everyone by showing a talent for breeding horses, producing animals that commanded premium prices. Mrs. Chen had passed away peacefully in her sleep when Lily was 10, and they all still missed her terribly. Mr. Chen had followed her 2 years later, and Marcus and Zara had buried them both on a hillside overlooking the ranch, with a view of the sunset they had both loved. The ranch had grown to become one of the most successful in the region, but Marcus and Zara never forgot their humble beginnings. They were known for their fairness to their workers and their generosity to those in need. More than once, Marcus gave work to a drifter with no prospects, remembering what it felt like to have nothing. On the evening of their 20th anniversary, Marcus found Zara sitting on the porch where he had first told her he loved her. The children were grown now, Michael engaged to be married to a nice girl from town, Lily courting a young rancher from the next valley, and Thomas talking about going to agricultural college to study animal husbandry. Reminiscing. Marcus asked, settling into the chair that had become his over the years. "Always," Zara said with a smile. "I was thinking about the first night we sat here together, when you told me you cared about me. I was so scared and so hopeful all at once. I was terrified you'd say no," he admitted. "Terrified I'd misread everything and you'd leave." "Never," she said, reaching for his hand. "I was already in love with you by then. I think I fell in love with you that first night when you faced down those men by my campfire." He brought her hand to his lips, kissing her knuckles gently. "Best decision I ever made, stopping to investigate that trouble. Best thing that ever happened to me," she agreed. They sat in comfortable silence, watching the sun set in shades of gold and crimson. The ranch spread out before them, a testament to 20 years of hard work and love. Cattle grazed in the distant pastures, horses ran in the corrals, and smoke rose from the bunkhouse where their ranch hands were preparing dinner. "You remember what I said that first night?" Marcus asked suddenly. "When I found you by the fire." "I think you all should move along now," Zara quoted, smiling at the memory. 6 words that changed my entire life." "Our lives," he corrected. "Changed both our lives." "True," she agreed. "I was lost and alone, and you gave me everything. A home, a family, a purpose, and most importantly, your love. You gave me just as much," he insisted. "More even. You took a lonely cowboy with a struggling ranch and made him the happiest man alive." She leaned over to kiss him, slow and sweet, tasting like 20 years of love and partnership. When they broke apart, both smiling, she said, "We did good, didn't we, Marcus Irving?" "We did very good, Zara Irving," he replied. "And we've still got a lot of good years ahead of us. With grandchildren to spoil," she added, thinking of Michael's upcoming wedding. "And maybe more businesses to start," he said. "Thomas has been talking about breeding racing horses. That could be profitable. Always thinking ahead," she teased. "That's one of the things I love about you." "One of many things, I hope," he said with a grin. So many things, she confirmed. I could spend the rest of the night listing them all. How about you show me instead, he suggested, his eyes warming with the familiar heat that still, after 20 years, made her pulse quicken. Mrs. Irving, she said in mock scandal, are you trying to seduce your wife on the porch where the children might see? The children are all in town, he reminded her. Michael at his fiancée's house, Lily at the church social, and Thomas studying with that veterinarian. We have the place to ourselves for hours. Zara laughed, feeling young and carefree despite her 42 years. Then what are we waiting for? They went inside together, hand in hand like newlyweds, and made love with the passion and tenderness of two people who knew each other completely. Afterward, lying in their bed with Marcus's arm around her and her head on his chest, Zara felt a profound sense of contentment. I love you, she whispered into the darkness. I love you too, he replied, pressing a kiss to her hair. Today, tomorrow, and always. Always, she echoed, and drifted off to sleep with a smile on her face. The wedding of Michael Irving to Sarah Peterson was the social event of the season in Colfax. The church was packed with friends and neighbors, all there to celebrate the young couple's union. Marcus walked his son down the aisle with visible emotion, remembering his own wedding day in this same church. Zara watched from the front pew, dabbing at her eyes with a handkerchief as her firstborn pledged his life to the sweet-faced young woman beside him. It seemed like only yesterday he was a tiny infant in her arms, and now here he was, a man starting his own family. The reception was held at the ranch, with tables set up in the yard and enough food to feed an army. There was music and dancing, and Zara found herself swept onto the makeshift dance floor by her husband. Our baby is married, she said, still trying to process it. He's not a baby anymore, Marcus said gently. He's a good man and he chose well. Sarah will make him happy. I know, Zara said. It's just hard to let go. We're not letting go, he corrected. We're letting him grow. There's a difference. She smiled up at him. When did you get so wise? I married a wise woman, he said. Some of it must have rubbed off. They danced together while the sun set behind them. Two people who had built a life and a legacy from a chance encounter by a campfire 21 years ago. Life continued its inexorable march forward. Michael and Sarah built a house on the far side of the ranch property and started their own family, giving Marcus and Zara their first grandchild, a little girl named Rose. Lily married her rancher and moved to his property, though she visited often with her growing brood of children. Thomas surprised everyone by marrying the veterinarian's daughter and starting a successful horse breeding program that made the Irving name known throughout California. Marcus and Zara grew older together gracefully, silver threading through their hair and lines deepening on their faces. But their love never dimmed. If anything, it grew stronger with each passing year, tempered by time and tested by life's challenges. They spent their days working the ranch alongside their children and grandchildren, though Marcus insisted Zara not do anything too strenuous. You've earned the right to take it easy, he told her. I'll rest when I'm dead, she replied tartly. I like being useful. You are useful, he assured her. You're the heart of this family, Zara. Everything we've built is because of you. Because of us, she corrected. We did this together, Marcus. Every step of the way. On a warm summer evening when they had been married for 30 years and Zara was 62 years old, they sat on their porch watching their grandchildren play in the yard. There were 7 of them now, ranging in age from Michael's teenage son down to Lily's infant daughter, and they filled the ranch with noise and laughter. Can you believe this? Zara said, watching the children chase each other around the oak tree Marcus had planted when Michael was born. All of this from one night by a campfire. I can believe it, Marcus said. You know why? Because I knew from the moment I saw you that you were special, that you were going to change my life. You changed mine first, she pointed out. You saved me, Marcus, in every way a person can be saved. We saved each other, he said firmly. That's what love does, Zara. It saves us from loneliness and purposelessness. It gives us something worth fighting for. She reached for his hand, lacing their fingers together like she had done thousands of times over the past 3 decades. His hand was weathered now, scarred from years of ranch work, but it was still the hand she loved most in the world. I'd do it all again, she said quietly. Every hard moment, every struggle, every tear, I'd do it all again to end up right here with you. Me too, he said, his voice thick with emotion. You're the best part of my life, Zara Irving. You always have been. They sat together as the sun set, painting the sky in brilliant shades of orange and pink and purple, the same colors that had marked so many evenings over the past 30 years. The ranch stretched out before them, prosperous and thriving, a testament to what 2 people could build when they loved each other and worked together. The grandchildren's laughter echoed across the yard, mixing with the lowing of cattle in the distance and the sound of horses in the corral. It was the sound of home, of family, of a life well lived. Thank you, Zara said suddenly. Marcus turned to look at her. For what? For stopping that night, she said. For facing down those men. For saying I think you all should move along now and meaning it. For giving me a chance when I had nothing. For loving me when I felt unlovable. For building this life with me. For everything. He pulled her close, wrapping his arm around her shoulders. You never have to thank me for loving you, he said. Loving you is the easiest thing I've ever done. She rested her head on his shoulder, breathing in the familiar scent of him, leather and hay and something uniquely Marcus. I love you, she whispered, more now than ever. I love you too, he replied, and they sat together as the stars began to appear in the darkening sky. 2 souls who had found each other against all odds and built something beautiful together. The years continued to pass, and Marcus and Zara grew old together on the ranch they loved. They watched their grandchildren grow up and start having children of their own, great-grandchildren who called them Nana and Papa, and climbed on their laps for stories. Marcus's hair went completely white, and his steps grew slower, but his eyes still lit up every time he looked at Zara. She moved more carefully now, her joints protesting after a lifetime of hard work, but her smile was as bright as ever when she saw her husband. They spent their days in quiet contentment, pottering around the ranch and spoiling their descendants. The ranch was in good hands now, with Michael running the cattle operation, Thomas managing the horse breeding, and Lily overseeing the business side of things. Marcus and Zara were finally free to simply enjoy the fruits of their labor. You have any regrets? Zara asked Marcus one evening as they sat on their porch, wrapped in blankets against the cool spring air. They were both in their 70s now, and every moment felt precious. Not a single one, Marcus said firmly. I lived a good life with the woman I love. What more could any man ask for? We were lucky, Zara said. So many things could have gone differently that night. But they didn't, Marcus said. That's what matters. We found each other and we made the most of every day we had together. I hope I go first, Zara said suddenly. I don't want to live without you, Marcus. Don't talk like that, he said, but his voice was gentle. We still have time. I know, she said. But whenever our time comes, I want you to know that loving you was the greatest adventure of my life. Every single day with you was a gift. His eyes were wet with tears as he pulled her close. You're my everything, Zara. You always have been, and you always will be. They held each other as the sun set one more time, 2 people who had loved deeply and lived fully, knowing that whatever time they had left would be spent together. Marcus Irving died peacefully in his sleep at the age of 78, with Zara holding his hand. It was a spring morning, and the birds were singing outside their window. He simply didn't wake up, slipping away so quietly that Zara didn't realize he was gone until she tried to wake him for breakfast. The family gathered for the funeral, 3 children and their spouses, 14 grandchildren and 6 great-grandchildren, all there to say goodbye to the man who had built the legacy they all enjoyed. They buried him on the hillside next to Mr. and Mrs. Chen. With a view of the ranch he had loved, Zara stood by the grave with dry eyes, having cried herself out in the days before. She placed a single wildflower on the fresh earth and whispered, "I'll see you soon, my love." She lived for 2 more years, staying in the house they had shared and spending time with her family. But everyone could see that part of her had gone with Marcus. She was quieter now, more reflective, often found sitting on the porch staring at the spot where Marcus's chair used to be. "Do you miss him terribly?" Lily asked one day, sitting beside her mother and taking her hand. "Every moment of every day," Zara admitted, "but I also feel grateful. Grateful for every year we had together, every laugh, every kiss, every ordinary moment that made up our extraordinary life." "You really loved him, didn't you?" Lily said, though she already knew the answer. "With everything I am," Zara confirmed. "He was my best friend, my partner, my soulmate. We built this life together from nothing, and I wouldn't trade one moment of it for anything." "He loved you just as much," Lily assured her. "Everyone could see it." Zara smiled, thinking of all the years and all the love. "I know," she said. "That was my greatest blessing." Zara Irving died peacefully in her sleep at the age of 80, exactly 2 years to the day after Marcus had passed. The family found her in the morning, lying in their bed with a smile on her face, as though she had seen something wonderful in her dreams. They buried her next to Marcus on the hillside, and the entire town of Colfax turned out for the funeral. The minister spoke of her kindness and generosity, of the family she had raised and the legacy she had left. But it was Michael who gave the most touching eulogy. "My mother used to tell us the story of how she met our father," he said, his voice breaking with emotion. "How she was alone and afraid by a campfire, and he rode out of the darkness to save her. But what she didn't realize was that she saved him too. She took a lonely cowboy and made him a husband, a father, a grandfather. She built a home and a family from nothing but love and determination. She taught us that family is everything, that love is worth fighting for, and that the greatest adventure is building a life with someone you love." He paused, wiping his eyes. "She loved our father with everything she had, and he loved her the same way. They were 2 halves of a whole, incomplete without each other. And now they're together again, probably sitting on some heavenly porch watching a sunset and holding hands like they always did." The family erected a beautiful headstone for them both, with an inscription that read, "Marcus and Zara Irving, 2 souls who found each other in the darkness and built a life in the light, together always." The ranch continued to thrive under the care of their descendants, each generation adding their own chapter to the story that had begun with a chance encounter by a campfire. The house that Marcus built and Zara made a home was carefully preserved, filled with photographs and memories of the couple who had loved so deeply. And sometimes, on quiet evenings when the sun was setting and the air was still, people swore they could see 2 figures sitting on the old porch, hand in hand, watching over the legacy they had created together. Whether it was ghost or memory or simply the power of enduring love, no one could say for certain. But everyone agreed on one thing. The story of Marcus and Zara Irving was a testament to what love could build, to how 2 people from nothing could create something extraordinary. It was a story of courage and faith, of second chances and new beginnings, of love that lasted not just a lifetime but beyond. And it all started with a cowboy who stopped to help a woman in trouble, who faced down 5 men with nothing but courage and conviction, and who said 6 simple words that changed 2 lives forever. "I think you all should move along now." Those words echoed through the generations, a reminder that sometimes the greatest love stories begin with the simplest acts of kindness, and that true love, once found, never really ends. It simply transforms, becoming part of the land and the legacy, woven into the very fabric of the place where it flourished. The Irving Ranch stood as a monument to Marcus and Zara's love, proof that 2 people who found each other against all odds could build something that would endure long after they were gone. Their great-great-grandchildren walked the same land they had worked, lived in houses built on the foundation they had laid, and carried forward the values they had instilled. And somewhere, perhaps in the rustle of wind through the oak trees Marcus had planted, or in the warmth of the sun on the porch where they had courted, their love lived on, eternal and unbreakable, a beacon of hope for all who believed that true love was worth waiting for, worth fighting for, and worth building a life around.